What's up, everybody? Welcome into another installment of Fuel Your Frame, the zero confusion meal planning course for the activities you love to do. I'm Johan Francis from Coach Johan, CSCS.com. I'm fired up to bring you another episode of Fuel Your Frame. This week, a diet for basketball. Many of you, most of us know someone that's played, that loves playing basketball. It's really accessible. You can go to the gym. You can go outside in the park like me here pretending to be a baller. But if you know anyone who balls, you'll know that they're low-key strong. And one of the things that you should also highlight about basketball is how much starting and stopping there is. It's a cardio activity that's really, really fun and requires a lot of submaximal strength. Here on Fuel Your Frame, I'm going to show you guys what activity we're doing. Of course, this week it's basketball, but like we did in weeks past with kickboxing and cycling, right? We're going to talk about the demands of the activity in sport and how we need to fuel it. What you can do for me is adjust, right? You can go on to CoachJohanCSCS.com, click calculate, see what your base calories are. If you need to lose weight, you adjust the recommendations I give here today based on that. As we've started and is now a trend, guys, another fit fact for you. Basketball is a tempo sport that requires strength. It requires strength even though you might be out there playing 3, 4, 5, 6 games at a time because the games are relatively short. It's a lot about starting and stopping, isn't it? It's not just jogging and then exploding and then jogging. It's start and stop. So it's exploding and then cruising. There is a difference. Okay? There is a difference when you're still running all the way around the field than if you're sprinting to a spot, jogging to another. Different tempos require different demands on your body. And again, the difference is that basketball players tend to be strong. And you, as someone who goes out onto the court, right, with your cousin and you guys go and she schools you, with the outside jump shot, she has a lot of endurance if she's playing constantly. Here's the thing. As you play constantly and your games start to last longer than, say, 40 minutes, right? You've been out on the courts for 40 minutes, shifting tempos, building strength, right? What happens is your body goes through this thing where your oxygen debt is paid off. So you've gone through your lactic threshold, your oxygen debt that you created is paid off, and now you're burning fat again, primarily as the fuel source. That's what makes our play different. And so what we need to do is fuel for before we get on the court and after for recovery. Another key asset of Fuel Your Frame, right? This course is learning something new. So this week we're going to learn something that applies to basketball, which is getting your pre and post workout in. For the pre, you want it to be about 5% of your daily base calories. So go to the website, see what your base calories are, and take 5% of that. That's what you're going to consume before. If it's lower than 100 calories, stop at 100. You want it to be sugar. You guys know this. I love to tell you and everybody else that it has to be mainly sugar. Fruit is a perfect option. Because, guys, your energy systems are a highway. That means once you start going in one direction, you do not get to take a shortcut. You have to drive down the whole highway. In order to get the fat burn later, you have to go through the creatine system, anaerobic system, then fat burn later on. You can't just skip to fat burn, right? That's something that a keto or paleo diet insists on and forgets mainly to tell you. They're a highway system. And the post-workout is protein. It may be glutamine or other complex carbohydrates, right? After your workout. And the caloric content is higher. Our science slide, guys, right here, my favorite one, it indicates all the tidbits you need to know about playing a nice game of ball. So like 2 games to 15 points, right? Gonna burn about 240 to 355 calories per half hour based on your weight. know that you can break your lactate threshold early because you are shooting your heart rate up early, jump shots, changing direction, etc. But over time, your oxygen debt. So here we have over here on the right, this chart shows that the oxygen debt has been paid off. The oxygen debt is your body struggling to get oxygen as you break your lactate threshold. Then anaerobically, you'll grind away, right? Trying to get more constituents to metabolize inside your body to fuel it, right? So early on, it's this creatine system, then later it's anaerobic, but even later than that, it's aerobic, and this will actually drop back down as the demand gets less intense and your oxygen debt is paid off. And what happens is, if we go to this section or this chart down here, we get into this aerobic portion of the workout. And quickly you can see there's this type of aerobic, which is burning glucose. But then later, we get back into fat burning. Okay, as the heart rate starts to go towards steady state. This happens when you play basketball for many times. Jumping, right? Jumping, changing direction, 3, 4, 5, 6 games at a time, you get those bursts, but your body comes back to steady state. And so how do we fuel that? Well, we have to make sure that before we come on the court, we do a little math. So we take in 5% of your base, right, in smoothies. You make yourself a juice. That juice has, bananas, berries in it. You put some seaweed in there, right? There's a secret tip that I use. The seaweed has all these great amino acids inside of them. Endogenously can help you create creatine, right, inside your body. And all of these help with fueling your metabolism early. And the idea is just to get to the spot where you can break your lactate threshold, go through the anaerobic process, and burn fat later. Oh, and don't forget the electrolytes. When your games are done, right, post-workout, it has to be protein. So how many grams of protein it is, it's definitely not going to be less than 10. If you're even a 5'2", 130-pound person, you're not going to take in less than 10 grams because your body is hungry for it. Hungry for aminos, hungry for proteins. 10 grams is the least amount of protein you'll take in after your basketball game. You're probably going to want to get in 18. Now, why 18 and not 38 or 28? Because the rest of those calories, you want them to be constituents of glycogen. So disaccharides, okay? Sucrose. Maybe it's, a banana's high in sucrose, but other things are honey, right? You can put honey in your post-recovery smoothie. Things like that, where you're getting disaccharides. Those are going to be great for your post-workout because they're the closest constituents to glycogen, which are just chains of sugars. And here's one thing that I always will pound into your head if you hear me talk about nutrition. What should I eat for dinner, right? But it's this rule of 2/3, 1/3. It still applies. It's 2/3 complex carbohydrates to 1/3 protein. Okay? So you'll hear me say it time and time again if you've worked with me for a long time. And all I'm going to tell you is if you're lifting a lot, you take in protein, right? If you're doing your cardio, you get in your mostly complex carbohydrates. So if you did a lot of lifting, it's 2/3 protein. But when we do our basketball, we ball, and we come back, and we want to refuel our body and get some dinner. It's going to be 2/3 complex carbohydrates. Here's the preliminary meal plan, all right? So sometimes if we're going to go to the court an hour after our lunch, we can get that pre-workout lunch in. That's going to be the 5% of our total base calories, right? No less than 100 or 110 calories. That morning, however, we ate a good 300 to 400 calories. This is just something I always prescribe to folks in general, right? Of course, if you're way heavier, and you have, 8% body fat and are 280 pounds, you're probably going to need like 600 calories for breakfast, but this is a nice average. And it is varied, right? A lot of variety here. You play your game in here, and afterward, you grab your complex carbohydrates and your protein, okay? 250 calories. That would be this. It'd be like, 5 ounces of milk and a bagel. And before you guys, are carb worried, stressed out, have sugar blues, know that eating your complex carbohydrates and carbs in the form of a bagel, despite what Joe Rogan might say, is just not horrible for you, especially if you're eating in this healthy pattern. And lastly, we talked about it before, 2/3 complex carbohydrates. This is white rice. This is your dessert, right? Because we all eat cookies or ice cream or ice cream sandwiches that are made of cookies and some falafel. This is just pure protein, and that is a smart dinner. All right. So in conclusion, you want to go ahead and figure out what your base calories are 5% before you go to the court in the form of sugar. That's to fuel this oxygen debt that's created naturally when you're jumping and cutting on the courts. Once your oxygen debt is paid, the duration and fat burning continue inside your body. This is indicative of a tempo sport like basketball. So guys, go to CoachJohanCSCS.com and find your base calories for free. Next time you hit the courts, you'll be off and running, hitting threes like Steph Curry or, Brittany Griner under the basket. This concludes our second week where we talked about strength. Okay, next week we're going into power. Okay, and we'll start with kettlebells. You need me to make the meal plan for you because you're doing something different in between days of playing basketball. Hit me up. Get at me. CoachJohanCSCS.com and click Get Coaching. Till then, you guys, stay up. And I hope to hear from you soon.